Are you a scaling SaaS founder?
Ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those you don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where our networks are locked up tighter than grandma's secret recipe. I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I help B2B SaaS founders like you grow from traction to scale. Here, growth is more than just numbers. It's about crafting a future-proof company, premium valuation, and leaders who build a business of significance while living epic, adventurous lives. Diving into the mind of Nikola Tesla today to uncover 3 critical entrepreneurial lessons that could totally change the game for all of us. He was an innovator way ahead of his time whose ideas shaped the world as we know it. Most people don't know that much about him, but especially these 3 things. Nikola Tesla didn't just imagine the future, he built it. One of the original power plants right here. From alternating current to wireless technology, his relentless pursuit of groundbreaking ideas forever changed the way that we live. Throughout his life, Tesla faced an uphill battle, financial difficulties, skepticism from peers, taken advantage of multiple times by business partners, and even sabotaged by rivals like Thomas Edison. His ideas were often seen as too radical, too futuristic for his time, yet Tesla never wavered in his beliefs that his invention would change the world. Entrepreneurs and leaders today face similar challenges: resistance to change, market volatility, fear of failure. But Tesla's story shows us that vision, persistence, and resilience are key to overcoming adversity. So what lessons can we learn from Tesla's life that can fuel our own entrepreneurial journeys? The first is vision beyond the present. Tesla's vision wasn't limited to just solving the problems of his time. He saw possibilities that no one else did. His groundbreaking work in alternating current AC and his idea of harnessing the energy of Niagara Falls for electricity production was revolutionary. He imagined a world where power could be transmitted wirelessly, envisioning things that many thought were ridiculously impossible. And as leaders, this reminds us that true innovation comes from thinking beyond the present and imagining what the future could be. Don't just solve today's problems, dare to see what others can't. The second is the relentless pursuit of innovation. Tesla's work spanned multiple disciplines from electrical engineering to physics to math. He devoured books on mathematics, science, philosophy, and then applied those lessons to his work. He was a true Renaissance man, and his interdisciplinary approach led to some of his most groundbreaking discoveries. And that teaches us the value of exploring different fields and approaching problems from unique angles, along with staying curious, humble, and continuously iterating and improving. As leaders, it's real easy to get caught up in what we know, what we're comfortable with, what, kind of our backgrounds, and instead of exploring what else is out there, who else can we learn from? And it's also really easy to go, I can't learn anything from them, or I'm a lot smarter than them, or, this person, sees the world way differently than I do, so, I'm gonna skip that. But that's where we really miss opportunities, and that's the thing that Nikola Tesla did, was really latch on to those things and stand on the shoulders of giants and take the next step. Learn everything that everybody else knows and then add to it and really kind of build his own thing and innovate. Pretty cool, huh? And third is seeing what others can't and then sharing that vision. Where most people saw a waterfall here at Niagara Falls, Tesla saw opportunity. I guess some other people did, called casino. But harnessing the power of water for energy was his idea. A little more noble, but unlocking potential from a natural force and transforming it into something that could power cities. He saw opportunities where others saw a spectacle. It's a great lesson to look for unconventional solutions, to see resources or opportunities in places that others overlook. What natural powers are in your industry or business just waiting to be harnessed? This vision of power from water became one of Tesla's most defining moments. He successfully developed the first hydroelectric power plant at Niagara Falls, which revolutionized energy production. This bold move is a testament to his ability to turn vision into reality. Tesla didn't just dream of harnessing the power of Niagara Falls, he executed it. His leadership lesson there: don't just dream big, but back up your vision with action. By executing this bold vision, Tesla illuminated cities and set the foundation for modern electrical grids, even every electrical engine today. So the power of his work is still felt over a century later. It's pretty incredible. What am I going to leave behind a century from now? I don't know. How about you? Tesla's life reminds us that visionary leadership, relentless innovation, and seeing potential where others don't are the keys to lasting impact. His vision for Niagara Falls exemplifies turning ambition into tangible success. Our expert last week was John McDonald, founder of The Good, a digital experience optimization firm, and the author of Behind the Click. We talked about buyer journey, psychology, where we mess that up, and how to get website visitors to take action in a way that focuses what they naturally want to do anyway. Our founder last Tuesday was Dave Dittenberg, founder and CEO of BYOD, which is revolutionizing the restaurant industry with augmented intelligence, real-time data, and helping leaders make fast, smart decisions. Dave lived the problem and set out to solve it. Incredible journey to a stellar vertical SaaS. If you missed either one of those episodes, go back and give them a listen. My guest today is Pritesh Vora, co-founder and VP of Growth and Marketing at Sprinto, the #1 rated compliance automation platform. With over a decade of experience driving SaaS startups to success, Pritesh has taken 2 early-stage SaaS companies to 7-figure revenue within just a year. With a passion for challenging the status quo, building strategic partnerships, and unlocking growth through consumer insights, Pritesh is your go-to authority on scaling businesses and executing powerful go-to-market strategies. Welcome someone who is making audits and compliance better and easier for all, Pritesh Vora. Hey Pritesh, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Hey Jeff, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Well, I'd love to hear a little bit about your background and what inspired you to create Sprinto.
Yeah. So first up, I'm a founding team member at Sprinto. But just a little bit about me, more about me, is I'm a software engineer who turned into an entrepreneur and then was forced to learn marketing as I had to build and run GTM for my own startup.
Wow.
And that's how I got introduced to the world of marketing. So I generally like to call myself an entrepreneur mindset marketer and not a hardcore marketer. But I've been a B2B SaaS guy throughout and worked for the past decade. I've only worked in startups at different scale and have had my own startup as well. But that's a little bit, just a brief intro about me. And
very good.
As of now, I head marketing and growth and partnerships for Sprinto.
And so tell me about Sprinto, the platform itself, security, audit management. What led you to recognize the need for a solution like that in the marketplace?
Yeah. Typically, the first word that comes into anyone's mind when we think of compliance is a yucky, is an icky, eerie feeling that comes, right?
Yes.
Like, man, who wants to do that? Get this off my back. I don't want to deal with this monkey. And those are the kind of thoughts that come. These are all negative thoughts. And
yeah.
In the previous startup, we had to ourselves get compliant with SOC 2 and others. And the process of getting that, it's so laborious and tedious that it's just mind-boggling. It just looks like an archaic system that just needs to be disrupted. So having gone through the challenges and the problems of getting this done ourselves, we realized the need for software. And it seemed ripe for software to disrupt this space. Not in multiple ways, not just to improve efficiency or reduce the effort. But for folks who don't know, compliance can be a costly affair. And for small startups, it can just be a barrier to entry. And software is perfectly right to solve for all of those things in layers, automate stuff, improve the efficiency, and lower the cost. That's the sole purpose of software. And that's what also triggered us to build a compliance automation platform where we can help companies of all sizes to get ready and be in a state of trust by default.
That's really good. And you're right. I mean, audits are terrible because we've done, PCI and SOC 2 and HIPAA, probably 10 years. And especially in the early days, there was no software at all. It was spreadsheets and a bunch of documents moving back and forth. And then somebody made a portal that was slow and laggy and it was supposed to be better. I don't know that it was. But to see a solution like Sprinto come along, and it seems like there have been several other ones kind of around the same time that have automated that, it's just next level in making compliance so much easier than it was.
Yep, absolutely. And the goal is more than compliance. The goal for us is if we can enable this for our customers, we are in hindsight also helping them build some good security practices in the company, which can help them avoid few not so nice incidents in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like having the software solution in there as well, because I think it kind of elevates the audit process where it's not just checking a box
Right.
to, say, yeah, we've done this, but there's that ongoing compliance. So it's constantly monitoring, it's constantly gathering information on the systems and security, stuff that you would have to do anyway, but it's doing it all in the background instead of somebody having to go and pull that manually. Is that kind of how it works?
Absolutely. So in simple steps, our mission is simply to reduce the effort that you would normally take to get to a compliance status and stay compliant by almost 80 to 90% while bringing down the cost as well. And our mission is to do the heavy lifting, where most of the work, the tedious and laborious work that is usually done by individuals, is done by the software or the machine in the background. So you can sleep well and focus on more important things that need the attention. And let software do the heavy lifting and the boring stuff in the background.
That's good. Yeah, that makes me feel better just as a founder, and knowing that it's not just a one-time thing. It's not a check the box exercise, but there really is something going on in the background, because in the end, it's about security and securing customer data.
Right.
Far more than it is about getting a piece of paper saying it was good at some point in time.
You can confidently go ahead and tell your customers that I'm following some good practices to keep your data secure.
Yeah, that's really, really good. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced in developing the platform, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I think some of the bigger challenges, we wanted to approach this in a slightly very early on. What we realized is if we solve, typically software are just meant for one kind of user. And we realized that if we also build it in the same modality, the chances of success is going to be significantly lower. We need to build a system or a platform that can enable or make lives easier for all the stakeholders in the system. And in this case, for example, a SaaS founder is not just the stakeholder, but once you are getting ready for SOC 2 and you're ready to get your audit done, there is an auditor who's also a significant player who's going to evaluate you on your current posture and give you the certification. So the system needs to make their lives easy as well. And we spend enormous amount of time in trying to understand the needs of the auditor themselves, because that's the biggest it's the biggest roadblock. Your software can be glorious, your software can be beautiful, can do all the stuff, but if it does not help you during your evaluation or when the time when you need it the most, things will start breaking up, and no one is successful in this. So we spent a lot
Right.
of time speaking to auditors, trying to understand how would they like to see this and evaluate, and what is the information that can make their lives easier as well. And so we had a whole 360-degree view instead of just one side of the coin. Uh, and that process took us time to try and understand and bake that into the platform. But I'm glad
Hmm.
we did that, because that truly is helping streamline the and gives an end-to-end experience, a smooth experience for all the stakeholders involved, which makes lives easier for everyone here.
I like that. And it's you're really building an application that has two sets of users. One is your clients who are choosing the solution and implementing it to help them with their audits. But then you have auditors that are using it as well. What kind of challenges did you have? I know you said you talked to the auditors, which is big. What kind of challenges did you have in building something that fit both of those audiences, some of which may be more or less technical?
Yeah. Uh, so both stakeholders have very different needs of what they want
Yeah.
from the system. The end user, like founders or compliance professionals, uh, they want a system which can help make their jobs easier. And this is where I think the jobs to be done is a beautiful framework to adopt.
Yes.
It helped us understand the core requirements of that segment of the user, which is the end user who use the platform, um, because it was an archaic process, and we had to break it down so that anyone who does not have any knowledge about compliance can come in and get compliant and get certified. Uh, so the system had to be simple enough for someone to come in and go through the process and get it done without
Yeah.
assistance. Uh, and that, especially, for example, if I had to use an email, if I have to go and evaluate or an email marketing tool, I already know about email marketing and stuff like that. So it's easy for me to go and mold or adapt to the tool itself. Uh, but when it comes to compliance, the end users are not necessarily experts or domain experts uh,
Yeah, that's right.
in that specific industry. So the tool has to do the heavy lifting of making it easier for them. So that breaking down the problem into simpler steps or making their lives easier was a big challenge for us to try and do that. I'll give you one simple example.
Sure.
All these frameworks like SOC 2 compliance, I'll take SOC 2 as an example. You have to meet some 100 plus requirements in order to get certified.
Yes.
But all those requirements are written in languages which you'll need to hire a lawyer for you to interpret.
That's absolutely right.
Right? They're so abstract and so complex. Uh, so we took it upon ourselves to. We realized that that's going to be a challenge, and it's not pleasant for anyone. So we
Yeah.
interpreted or translated the jargon into common language and baked it into the platform. So that when users come, our end users just have to uh, read normal text like regular text and try and understand what is required for them to get compliant. So this is just one part, and we had to do this over and over again in all the different areas uh, of the product itself. So that was one part of the puzzle. The second was the auditor piece. Now, every auditor, uh, so there is a common behavior that you can induce in the end users. Uh, but when it comes to the auditor side, every auditor, which are typically boutique shops, they have their own way of working. They have their own style of working. And that's the knowledge baggage. Because they've been doing it for years, they have, they have their own style of working. So when we were speaking to different auditors, we had to bake those requirements and try to build a common minimum program which can, or build a system which is flexible enough to address specific needs of individual auditors. And that part was very challenging, especially when you try to speak to auditors. They have all the good intentions and they are the experts, but having to translate their uh, their language into the tool and get that implemented, do a technical implementation of that, which also meets their requirements, was very challenging. It definitely taught us a lot of new things, a lot of new jargon. at the least.
Oh, I'm sure it did, because they live and breathe these audits. They're in there all the time. It's something that they know so well that somebody from the outside, and they're just lost.
Yeah.
And the requirements are written that way. I think they're written that way on purpose, so that the people don't understand them. But it's really smart to take that and put it into language that anybody can read and understand. Because if we don't understand compliance, how are we supposed to comply? I mean, how do we even know that we're doing what we're doing is the right thing?
That's so true. So common speak, ensuring that we enable common speak was one of our main goals.
Yeah, that's really, really good. So thinking about the business itself, any significant pivot points in the journey where you had to change direction or strategy, where you had to think about things differently?
To be honest, there's a saying that market trumps everything. And thankfully, we were in a market which is growing, which is trending up.
Yes.
And so we've been seeing good growth ourselves as well. We've been growing fairly fast and have been busy. So that's not allowed us, or rather, that has not forced us to think of any kind of pivots. And we've continued to just grow on the journey that we started with. You may say we've been lucky to pick up problem that seems to resonate with what the market needs.
Yeah. Well, compliance is becoming more and more not just a nice to have, but a must have.
Right.
And overall, I think that's a good thing. It's a little difficult to implement in some industries, or just the sophistication of the IT companies there. But overall, it is absolutely a good trend.
Yeah, I would agree. It ensures that at least basic or standard security practices are definitely implemented by all companies to keep sensitive data safe and secure.
Yeah. Well, what about integrations? I know, if you have a system like that and you're talking to others or gathering data, there have to be integrations. And recently, I logged into Rippling, our payroll system, and right there, Sprinto is integrated there as well to be able to pull the HR data. What types of integrations have you done, and what has that been like?
Yeah. So one of the backbone of or one of the core principles of compliance is to collect evidences, or rather proof of things that you state you are doing. You need to collect proof so that come audit time, you can show that proof to the auditor.
Yeah.
And say that, yes, I'm doing all the things that are stated in the framework requirements, and I meet those requirements. Here's the proof for that. Right. Now, traditionally, this collection of evidence is a very, very it's not a one-person job. It's not something like I can go and collect all the evidence myself and then present it to the auditor. It's a very laborious task, because you are trying to collect hundreds of thousands of evidences which you want to show to the auditor. And second, these evidences need to be collected from various departments, from HR to IT
Right.
to engineering to finance, and all these functions. So you're dependent on, or you're at the mercy of them providing you the evidence on time so that you can collect and then show it to the auditor.
It's never on time if you rely on people.
As we learn from
Never on time. Yeah.
And it's very frustrating, as you can imagine. All you end up doing during that time is just running pillar to post, following up with people, trying to get that data
Yep.
on. Right? It's not a pleasant experience.
No.
And so that was one of the biggest problem that we wanted to break or solve. And so we said, since evidences are mostly, if there's a way to automate the collection of these evidences, and we figured that And we try to solve for a segment where we can do justice to this and do it really well. And we said, if you look at companies who use technology or use a lot of technology in house, most of their evidence is going to be living on those systems. And so, as a principle, we said anything we should aim to remove or eliminate any manual evidence collection. Anywhere where a person has to go take screenshots and do that, our goal is to eliminate that busy work. Because it's just busy work, right? You're going to a system, you're taking screenshot and you're cataloging in a folder. And it's a lot of busy work.
Right.
And we said we have to eliminate that. So with that philosophy in mind, integrations become a natural choice for us. We said we should try and plug into as many systems as possible where we can collect evidence automatically and do it continuously, and eliminate this busy work from the lives of our users. And that's where integrations play a big role. So you'll see we have more than 250 integrations, and we keep expanding that list and keep trying to integrate with as many systems as possible, and eliminate this busy work from the lives of our users. So integrations are at the core of what we do and play a very important role in helping reduce the effort, time, and cost for getting compliant.
That's pretty impressive. 250 integrations. I think that's one of the hardest things if you're talking about a platform like this. Is just really all the tools and systems in a company's tech stack.
Yeah.
And to do that, does that provide somewhat of a moat for competitors of trying to get in the space? I mean, that's a huge number to try and compete with. If somebody's going to start and try and do that today.
Yeah, I feel the way we approach this is two ways. One, so the larger your integration list, the more difficult it is for people trying to enter and make a difference. But more importantly, what we believe is, even if you integrate to a system, you will learn the integration is not enough, is not sufficient to make it effective. You need to understand, you need to make your integrations intelligent. Your systems need to be smart to handle those use cases, to understand what goes or what is involved in the system you are integrating with, to reduce the busy work. So integrations on its own is not sufficient. That automation is just we feel that's table stake and should be table stakes. But the smarter your system can be, the better and the larger moat you'll build. And that's one of our focus areas, because that's core to our philosophy of eliminating the busy work as well. Any place that you integrate, any place that does not require you to do manual work should be automated.
Yeah, that makes sense. Ready to future-proof your company and scale to new heights? Dive into the ultimate resource designed for SaaS founders and C-suite executives. Champion Leadership Group gives you an unfair advantage in scaling up revenue and outwitting competitors. Imagine solving your biggest scaling headaches and hitting 5, 10, 20 million ARR and beyond with ease. We take away the guesswork and the grunt work and replace it with framework by supporting you with our on-demand fractional C-suite team, a powerful operating system built into software, and a thriving community of fellow scaling SaaS founders. That's how we make it happen. If you're stuck at your current revenue level, this is your ticket out. Feel like your company is the world's best kept secret? We amplify your success. And if you're already crushing it but too busy to breathe, we got your back. We'll free up 20% of your time in the first month. Now is the time to upgrade from traction to scale. If you're ready to work smarter, not just grind harder, schedule a 10-minute growth brainstorm. It's free, can't buy anything on the call, and we will pinpoint the number one thing blocking revenue. Visit championleadership.com, because that's where leaders evolve and companies transform. How do you build a more intelligent system? So, how are AI, machine learning being utilized within your platform, to enhance that process?
Yeah, I would love to, boast about all the cool AI things that go behind the process. But to be honest, we take a first principle approach when we look at a system that we are trying to integrate with. We keep the user in mind, map their flow of what are the use cases that they have to, what are their tasks that they hope to achieve with the system that we are trying to integrate, and which use cases of those can be automated not just for today but for future. And so when we integrate into a system, we'll build those, will make it smarter, not necessarily through AI, to be honest. um, it would play a role in a lot of what we do in the future, but smartness can be built even just by understanding the task that the user is trying to achieve,
Of course.
baking
Yeah.
those into the system. So we take a very simple approach, uh, and build that into the product.
I like that. And it just kind of comes back to the philosophy of jobs to be done. What is the use case? What is it that you can automate? What does the end user need? And starting with that and figuring out, what are the things you need to do to deliver that.
Absolutely. And once we put the end user in mind, I feel you automatically build systems or features. Uh, you'll not just build for the present, but also build for the future.
Yes. Yes. Well, thinking back to what you said at the beginning, you started out as an engineer and then moved into marketing. What was that transition like for you? What are the things that you learned or maybe lessons to share?
Yeah, I think I still love engineering. If I get an opportunity, I would love to go back to learn something new in programming and then try and implement it. Uh, Whenever I get an itch, I pick a very small project and would go and automate something that's bothering me. So I feel I have an advantage there on being an engineer, because engineering trains you
Yeah.
to build certain things, to think of systems and think of automation to begin with. So to be honest, even during when I was a software engineer, I used to love interacting with people, speak to external folks, um, and have conversations around those. Um, and so somehow I felt that it just naturally came to me to not just code, but uh, tie programming to business outcomes. Um, Although I didn't have a formal education, so of course I went through a lot of uh, learnings and failures, which I can now incorporate and make them successful. But early days was especially tough because you have an engineering mindset, and you're always trying to think that way, with that analytical brain, and trying to attach reasoning to everything, but not necessarily uh, everything can be reasoned for. And so you need to
Mm.
you need to have a very different mindset, not just analytical, but also a creative mind, uh, which you need to apply if you want to grow. So that transition of uh, mindset is where I think I made a lot of mistakes, uh, and had the hardest time. Uh, Thankfully, there were people I could bank on, or go back to. There's a very nice community of SaaS folks, and you can always feed off each other, or learn off each other, learn from each other, and learn.
Yeah.
So that really helped me in that journey. But that mind shift change was probably the biggest challenge for me.
Yeah. And how did the kind of the systems thinking translate from engineering into marketing? Yeah. Do you think that same way in marketing? Do you think that gives you an advantage?
I feel so. So, like in traditional, uh, in traditional sense, like I said, I'm not a hardcore marketeer. So, to be honest, I'm not the ones. And when we think of marketing, we always think of big bang ideas or large campaigns that someone would execute. But marketing is so much beyond that. Um,
Sure.
and I think of them as I think of it as also a lot similar to programming, where the one of the core jobs that I feel I have is to build processes and systems that can scale and are sustainable over a period of time. So when we approach a new idea or a project that we want to take up internally, we try and answer some tough questions before we take it up. Um, and we use a framework to evaluate that as well. It's called the RISE framework. It's a fairly popular, not something that I have invented, but fairly popular framework. And we put our ideas to test using that framework to see if we can get the desired results, not just today, but something that can scale and grow over a period of time. So I'm a strong believer of building systems. And that's the mindset, thankfully, that's the mindset which I've carried from engineering to the marketing side, which is allowing us to focus on the right set of things to do.
Yeah. And so for those listening that may be familiar with it or not, but RISE talks about the reach, the impact, confidence, and effort. And so it's figuring out, how do those fit into the project, and coming up with a score to prioritize. So it's about doing the right things.
Yeah.
I guess maybe doing the right things at the right time. So is that something you've worked with your team on, and really having that kind of a focus and doing right things?
Absolutely. So RISE framework on its own may not be sufficient. RISE frameworks just helps you to prioritize things. But at the end of the day, you still have to figure out if you're doing, if the options that you're trying to evaluate are the right set of options that make sense. And that's where we answer some additional questions internally, like, is this a one time, or is this something that can be built into a process and a system moving forward? That's one of the things. But beyond that, something that's also running on my mind for the last couple of quarters, and I'm trying to test it out internally with my team as well, is a thought that has been going on in my mind for a long time, which is whenever you start a new activity, a new channel, let's take webinars or channel partnerships as an example. Whenever you're starting new, it's very easy to get distracted by the success that you see.
Yes.
Let's take webinar as an example. And when you run webinars, you may start celebrating the registrations or the attendees that you get out of running webinars. And you may start celebrating that success and say that we have been successful in doing this exercise. But honestly, what we often tend to ignore is that success, does that success align to the goals that the company has, or align with the objectives that the company is trying to achieve? So any success should not be treated just as success, but that success needs to be measured with the impact that it's creating for the organization. And that's one of the hard things that we are trying to do is, yes, you have generated success, but you may need to push it aside if it is not impacting the goals of the organization. And so focus there is very important to try and understand what is the impact that you're trying to create with the channel or project that you're taking up. And if the work that you're doing does not meet or align with the impact that you're trying to create, you may need to shove it, or you may need to shelve that project itself or the channel itself and rethink what you're doing. And that would only come with if you start focusing on the right things, the right objectives, or the right impact that you're trying to create. So that's running on my mind. That's something that I'm trying out internally as well. We do get resistance. I do get a lot of resistance because success is like a drug. No one wants to do away with success.
Yeah,
it's very hard.
that's exactly right.
To part away with success. But that's where I think I have the leverage. I can put my foot down and say, we have to look at this as success. Why as success and not what you are looking currently at success? Um, and I'm glad to share, like in one of the places where we adopted this, we
Sure.
have seen tremendous improvement, significant improvement uh, in alignment of the success of a project or a channel to the impact that it's creating for the org. So it's very encouraging, and I'm hoping to roll it out across all the functions within marketing.
And that makes a lot of sense. And I think that's one of the things that holds companies back is they try something and there are markers of success. And are they tracking the right things? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But marketing, for example, marketing may have a number of leads
Yeah.
that they want to drive. And so they run a campaign and they get a bunch of leads in and they're celebrating that, we hit the number, we exceeded the number. Isn't this awesome? And then sales is looking at them going, well, we have a bunch of leads, but none of them are in our target market.
Right.
So was it successful or not? From one side, what they're measuring it was. From the other side, none of the leads are converting. So, was it successful? But they hit their number. And so it's really, like you said, it's in the context of the greater goals of the business. It's not just that lead number, but it's what those leads produce.
Yep.
That really matter.
Yeah, I like to call it a general success versus impact success. Uh, it, the, what is the impact that your success is making? And that's the true measure. Now, when I started at Sprinto, thankfully, we built a team from scratch. So one of the measures for success that we introduced was that any successful measurement that we'll do would be around SQL and not leads.
That's good.
And so which meant that even if we generate leads, that's of no use until it turns into success. So all our goals are conditioned around SQLs and not leads at all. This of course needed a lot of this met a lot of resistance, a lot of challenge, but thankfully, because I started from scratch, it was a little easier for me.
That would be easier if you start that way than try and transition just to change that thinking.
Right.
And so when you think about just on the same subject, thinking, you talked about systems thinking. And we were talking earlier and you mentioned like systems thinking versus activity thinking. Expand on that a little bit. And what is the difference?
Yeah. So as marketers, we are always kind of distracted by the next shiny object syndrome, right?
Oh, absolutely.
We'll see something flashy and we would want to just go grab it and go after it.
Yes.
And work on it. And I don't blame it. It serves its own purpose because you're being curious about it, which is a positive sign. But a lot of times those a lot of times those come from the reference of someone else doing it, and therefore we should do it. And because everything on social seems larger than life, we often tend to get distracted with the fact that someone's doing such an amazing work doing this activity. We definitely have to do this, or what are we doing? We aren't doing anything, and we should try and do that. So that shiny object syndrome, especially in a comparative world, can hurt us more than benefit. And I'll give you an example, because that shiny object syndrome, that shiny object that you're trying to chase as a marketer, may only have a very small shelf life, and is something that you may be able to do just once and is not repeatable in nature. So by definition, the work that you're putting in doing this one time is only limited. The value that you're extracting is only limited to that one time.
Mm-hmm.
And that is like, yes, you want to do it to satisfy your own cravings, but that's not really creating the impact the long-term impact that we would want for the org. So in a systems thinking, in a system building way, what you would focus on is you evaluate the idea on its merit, but also keep in mind, can I extract repeatable value out of it? Is this something that can scale infinitely? And can I extract value not just today, but can I keep squeezing the juice out of it on an ongoing basis? And therefore, you would start building systems that can support this growth or support this scale for you, not just for today, but in the future. And that's a key demarcation that we also try to have internally, which is beyond experiments. Don't get me wrong. We do one-off projects, but they are just experiments and never as one of the core things that you would take up. Whenever we pick up a core project, we would always measure it against, is this a one-time value extractor, or is this something we can squeeze the juice over and over again?
Yeah, systems thinking versus activity. That's really, really smart way to look at it, and really thinking about that and scalable, not doing a bunch of one-off things, but really thinking about it in that larger context. So as you've built Sprinto, how did you think about funding? And I know you've done several rounds of funding. Did you bootstrap for a while? Did you decide to fund from the very beginning with the seed round, or how did you think about that when it came to the go to market and fundraising?
Yeah. So thankfully, our founders are not first time founders. So they built a company, they've sold it as well. And so when they were looking at the next problem to solve for, which was this, they had some advantage when it came to that. Having been successful in the past always helps. So,
Sure.
And the previous company was a bootstrap journey. So they exactly knew the challenges and the advantages and the challenges that are associated with this. So one thing we were fairly clear is this time around, we wanted it to be a high growth functioning engine, which is sustainable, not growth at all costs, but giving us a fair chance to grow fast and build a sustainable business and not be limited by the resources that you have. And that
Sure.
mindset meant that we would need growth capital to grow fast. It is not a absolute necessary requirement, but we felt that having some ammunition will always help us think more freely, be more bold in our decisions, which can help us grow faster. So even when we started, given the past success, we were able to raise a seed round, which allowed us or gave us the freedom to experiment and build this system more in a more robust manner than we would have otherwise. Also, I feel the biggest advantage of having some form of growth capital is that it squeezes the time of learning for a company.
Yes, definitely does.
And the faster you are able to learn, I feel the faster learning in itself is a moat. The faster you're able to learn, the faster you're able to turn it around, the faster you're able to grow. And that's a very infectious cycle. As you keep learning faster, you keep growing faster, you keep building more and more moat, or keep differentiating yourself from others. And that's the biggest benefit that growth capital can bring to the table. And that's why we've raised Series A. We just raised Series B earlier this quarter.
Earlier this year. Yeah. Well, thinking about growth, I mean, how has your role as a co-founder challenged you personally and professionally to grow? What are the most valuable lessons you've learned?
So I'm part of the founding team here, and all of us have come with the background of having run teams and scaling teams to a certain scale. This is the first time when a lot of us in the company are going beyond the scale that we have not seen in the past.
That's great.
Which means that inherently means there are a lot of unknowns which we have not seen in the past, and there's no precedent of how to react to something. From managing people, a large number of people, to knowing how to think for a certain scale, how to build systems for a certain scale, and a bunch of unknowns. And I feel that has been the single biggest difference, when knowing from when to roll up your sleeves to when to build systems and teams to scale for the future. That balance, that tight balance of both the sides is something that has been a big learning personally for me. The second biggest learning has been from managing few people, or having few people in the company, or even in the function, marketing function, to maintaining teams of people that you would have, and the associated challenges that come where around people management and change management, compared to something at a smaller scale, are very different. There are a lot of unknowns involved, and there's a lot of learning that you go through. And the third biggest thing that I'm realizing today is the difference of the impact of change management. When you're smaller, change management is so much more easier. And as you keep larger and larger, change management is the single biggest headache that you would have. And I would not have imagined how big of a monster that is.
That's absolutely right. Because when you're small, you just yell across the office, or you have a meeting and everybody knows.
Yeah.
And then you get bigger and bigger, and there's so many things that are going on, and not everybody knows, and there's got to be some sort of a process, to the madness.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, where can people learn more about you and about Sprinto online?
So Sprinto, we are fairly active on social. Our website is sprinto.com, and you can also find us as with Sprinto HQ on LinkedIn. I'm also available on LinkedIn with my first name and last name, Pritesh Vora, at Sprinto. You'll find me on LinkedIn. That's the best place to connect with me and exchange ideas. I'm always looking to learn something new. So feel free to connect and share your learnings.
Outstanding. Well, Pritesh, it's been a great conversation. Thanks for being on SaaS Fuel. Thanks again, Pritesh, for coming on the show and sharing your journey and insights. You can learn more about Pritesh and Sprinto at sprinto.com. As always, all links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at saasfuel.com. And be sure to check us out on YouTube as well. Thought leaders share. Share this episode with someone who's been thinking about getting security certifications, or even better, maybe someone who's complained about how difficult and sucky the process is. They'll 100% appreciate it, and of course, your genius as well. Everyone who shares this week gets a wireless Wonder Wand. Channeling the spirit of Tesla, the wand wirelessly transfers your most innovative ideas to your team without the need for boring meetings. Just wave it around and they'll instantly get it. Just watch the brainstorming magic happen. Join us Thursday on our SaaS Fuel Expert Series, where my guest is Anthony Nitzos, fractional CFO. We'll be talking about finance, reliable metrics, and a solid understanding of the true economics of their business to maximize valuation. And next Tuesday, we have founder Renan, a visionary entrepreneur who sold his first startup to Google and now leads OSS Ventures. He's transforming manufacturing through technology while passionately tackling the challenges of climate change and corporate strategy for a better future. So I will see you next time, and as always, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/SaaS Fuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.